Hello, YouTubers. My name is I Am Speed, and I am a veteran Summoner's War player of just a little over 3 years. Guild Siege is my favorite part of the game, and even more so because of a guild that I recently joined. It's the hashtag Here Gang. We're on global server, and our leader is Uncle Nay, and he actually encouraged me to start making these videos. So he wants me to share my Guild Siege knowledge for what it is. I am certainly not a Guild Siege expert, but I have played it quite a bit, and I have the basics down, and I'm hoping that as you watch this channel, you can grow with me. So a little bit about the audience for this channel. If you are already in G3 Siege and you are winning all 10 of your battles, then this channel is probably not for you. But if you are brand new to the Summoner's War game, or you are brand new to learning about Siege, then perhaps this channel will help you out. So welcome aboard, and let's get started. So for those of you that have never done Guild Siege before, you go into the Isle of Conquest, go into Siege Battle, click here, and we see the first half, and my guild, the Here Gang, has already destroyed everybody. So there's nothing for me to attack. We're fine. We're fine. I mean, no one actually likes to see real Guild Siege battles. I mean, that's boring. There's thousands of videos doing that. So we'll just have to do something different. Okay, well, actually, so one of the things I had hoped to cover in this video is talking about how when Guild Siege is not available, there's still plenty that you can do. So we're waiting for the next battle to start, and one of the things you can do is plan ahead. So one of the most common questions I get when talking with people in our guild, hashtag Here Gang, is how do I contribute to Guild Siege? My account's only 4 days old. I don't have it. What you can do is you can look at your defenses and try to figure out how you can improve your defenses. And one of the things I like to do really early in the game, and by the way, I know these are all horrible defenses, but one of the things I like to do early in the game is set up trash defenses just so that we have those to throw into towers that we take over. And so you can see we have our towers set up, but when you take over enemy towers, even early on, you need to be able to put defenses in there just so that the enemy has to use some of their monsters to take their towers back. And that's using up monsters that they could potentially use on your towers, which you want to try to keep intact. One of the keys to winning in early Guild Siege is just having players who are active. Having your guild full of active people that have a few defenses set up, so you've got trash defenses you can throw into towers to eat up the other team's offenses. And if your team has 10 or 15 active people and they've got 3, you're going to win, unless their defenses are amazing, and they're usually not. And so as people come into our guild, we're always telling them set up 10 defenses. Really doesn't matter the quality. Obviously, the best you can is great, but just have 10 set up. So here is a trash defense. Yeah, it's got 3 monsters, but they're all 4-star. It's not going to stop anybody. But one of the things you can do as you start building your offenses, you can test them against your guild member defenses. So I'm going to test against here, and everyone's like, oh, I have nothing to use. Well, almost everyone builds Lapis. The Summoner's Way basically almost forces you to 6-star and max Lapis. So she's available on almost every account. You just click on Start Battle. I've only got 1 monster. It doesn't matter. 3 fire 4-stars are not going to stop all-powerful Lapis. take their turns, lapis counters, and really you don't even need to bother running it yourself. You're done. One of the most common offenses in Guild Siege, it's a very reliable offense, is Bulldozer, Copper, and then the most common third monster is the Wind Horus, which is Imensity, but I have not pulled that yet. But a nice 3-star alternative for very early Guild Siege can be Racuni. So then do that. You set up your defense. Now that is not a defense that's meant to stop anyone, but now I can remember, oh, I need to build this team, and I can keep track of who is important for me to build. But another great team for early Guild Siege is Fran, Loren, and Naomi. And you can actually use Naomi with her guild content speed lead, so you get a 16% speed lead. But the idea is you want Naomi to be your damage dealer. So you want her to be slower than both Fran and Loren, but not super slow so that she doesn't get cut. But just to demonstrate, so here he's got a, now this is a speed lead team. You wouldn't necessarily want to go after a speed lead team with a Bulldozer, Copper, Imensity team because you don't have a speed lead, and it would be fairly likely that they could outspeed you. Lucian would do an ignore defense on your team and the team would be over. But I tested this earlier just to see, and I'm actually faster. And so we're going to put Bulldozer in, we're going to put Copper in. And then on this account, I have actually pulled Imensity. And so this team is more often used against kind of tanky, heavy defense teams rather than speed teams. But this is a good, I just wanted to show the team in action. So here we've got Bulldozer. Now this is not a great Bulldozer by any stretch of the imagination. He's got plus 1600 defense. Now his crit rate is 78. Some of you might think that's a little low, but when you use Imensity, he gives you a 30% crit rate bonus. So he's actually 100% crit rate whenever Imensity is boosting him. The crit damage is a little low, and you'll notice he's on double guard will. One of the nice things about this team is it's not super hard to rune to make it effective in early Guild Siege. So this actually is more of an early Guild Siege build where he's just on defense, crit damage, defense. And none of these runes are actually good. That one's not horrible with 20% crit damage. A nice high defense on that one. And this is a reasonable crit damage rune. But again, you don't necessarily need these even this much rune quality to make the team effective in early Guild Siege. And then I just added 2 more defense artifacts with a little bit of additional damage by defense, a little additional damage by attack. Again, more defense, speed. I was basically just looking for more additional damage. And so he's decently built. And he is on will because his third skill will stun him if he's not on will. So you use his third skill, he kills something, but then he's stunned and he's useless for another turn. So I always put will on him. And then let's pull Copper back up here. And actually, Copper is ruined worse than Bulldozer. So now he is fully skilled, but he only has plus 1284 defense, which is not that good for Copper because Copper's third skill is that it will ignore defense if their defense is lower than your defense by 50%. So their defense would not have to be too high for Copper to no longer do ignore defense. So this is one of the monsters I need to re-rune. And one of the things I'll do in early Guild Siege is I won't always level up all runes to plus 15 if they're just not worth it. And this rune here is just not worth going to plus 15. It's got one roll into crit rate, one max roll into crit rate, a mid roll into accuracy, and then a mediocre roll into flat HP. So this is not a good rage rune for copper, but it's all I have at the moment. So I left it at plus 9 so that I know when I'm flying through on free rune removal days that I need to replace this one. This one doesn't even have crit rate on here. That one's not horrible. It's a serviceable rune. So he's on defense, crit damage, defense. And I added in even more defense on artifacts, which shows how he just doesn't have a lot of defense to start with on these runes. Again, his crit rate is 84. It doesn't need to be 84. It could be 70. And with Imensity's boost, then he'd be at 100%. So I'm wasting crit rate here. The crit damage is not horrible. It's almost 200. Decent accuracy in case you want him to land his debuffs from skill 1 or skill 2. So he's not entirely awful, but he's not someone I'm going to go in and try to go against a monster who has high defense, because then his skill 3 ignore defense is not going to be triggered, and he's just going to be hitting like a wet noodle. So that's copper, but he's on one of the more traditional Rage Blade rune sets for copper. So his runes could be a lot better, and then he would be more effective. And then here's Imensity. Imensity is often on Swift Will for Guild Siege, but I don't have a good will set for him. So he's just on speed, HP, HP. This one has decent speed, and I probably should boost this rune up to plus 15. I got a 22 speed there, a 13 speed there, which is weak, and an 18 after a grind here, which isn't necessarily great either. And he's not fully skilled up. So a mediocre Immensity. His speed is 253, which is not bad, but it's certainly not good, even as you get into mid-level Guild Siege. So this Immensity would have to be improved before we move up in Guild Siege. But for early Guild Siege, it's okay. So we're just going to start the battle and just demonstrate what you would want to do using Dozer, Copper, Immensity. So I outspeed, so you want to use Immensity's third skill, and generally I always try to take out their biggest threat with Bulldozer while he still has his will runes up. So I'm going to boost Bulldozer. He gets a nice crit rate, 30% crit rate bonus, and he also gets a defense boost, which also increases his damage output. So then we're going to do skill 3. And we do about 40k, and that's enough to get rid of Lucian. And then they get their turn. You'll see that Immensity was at 253 speed. Copper was at like plus 10 or something. So Immensity actually gets another turn before Copper even gets to go. Just slow him down a bit. Now Galleon is not typically built with high defense. I mean sometimes, but often more HP. So I'm going to do skill 3 on Galleon. Boom, 44,000 ignore defense, and that's the end of Galleon. And then we just auto it to kill off Kona. You can see Bulldozer. I like Bulldozer because he stuns with his skill 1. So it's just a really nice offense. It's really clean. The other, especially if you go against a team that is not a speed lead, they often don't even get a turn, or they're down to one monster when they get a turn. So. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the second Guild Siege offense that I'm suggesting in this first episode. And we're going to take a look at, we had just talked about Dozer, Copper, Imensity, and how it was a good offense. It's not necessarily a good defense, because all you really need to do is outspeed Imensity, and then you can pick the team apart, especially with an attack bar control team that's decently fast. So we're going to take a look at this. We're going to test against this. And so I'm going to use my Naomi. I've got my Fran. I'm going to pull my Loren in here. And these aren't necessarily great runed monsters. My Fran's 215 speed. She's on Violent Revenge, fully skilled, a little over 30k HP, almost 1,000, a little over 1,000 defense. Her accuracy is a bit low. Her resistance is low for a support monster. But she's decently fast, so I'm just hoping that she can, with this 16% speed lead from Naomi, that she can outspeed Imensity. So we will see. And then right behind her at 198 speed is Loren, fairly tanky, 1,100 defense, a little over 30k HP, a little bit better accuracy, but still needs more. She's on speed, HP, not necessarily the best runes. And I put her on 1 HP artifact and 1 defense artifact. And then we've got Naomi, who's quite a bit slower. So she's only around 180 speed. She's on Rage Will. Crit rate is really low, but you don't need crit rate on Naomi. As long as there's one negative effect on the enemy, the crit rate will be 100% if the enemy has harmful effects. So you don't need to build her with crit rate. It means you can put her, so I got her up to 213% crit damage, which is decent. I wish her accuracy was a bit higher, so that she can land her stuns off skill 1 and her brand off skill 2. She is 2-8. I do need to work on getting her skills up. Almost 2,000 total attack, which is not amazing, but it's decent. So that's the team, and the idea is that you want Fran to move first, so that you can put immunity and an attack buff on your team. You want Loren to go next to strip will runes if needed, and then put a defense break or a slow. Either one of those will trigger Naomi's 100% crit rate, and then Naomi goes next and kills things. So we're just going to do a quick demonstration here. And as long as we outspeed Imensity, then Dozer, Copper, Imensity falls apart. So it looks like we did outspeed. We're going to buff up. They do have will runes. That's good for the defense. And we're able to strip, and we got a heal block. So we just do chain attack. Boom, boom. Imensity's gone. Now they took out my Naomi, but you'll see that their attack bars are both very low now. Copper actually does get some damage from attack, so we tried to attack, debuff him, power break. It didn't work. And now we're just going to try to work on controlling their bars, and also doing a defense break on both of them will lower their damage. So they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. We're going to buff up so that Copper can't defense break us. We're both on revenge, so we're going to get some revenges in here. And it's just a matter of going through. And we got a defense break on Copper, so he's not going to be doing any ignored defense anytime soon. We can use Fran to get rid of Copper, and then it's just Fran and Loren taking care of Bulldozer. He doesn't get a chance to move. So that's why Bulldozer, Copper, Imensity is not a great defense, because if you could just outspeed Imensity, the team can't really do much, even to this very simple offense. But that's why I like a damage dealer plus Fran and Loren. Especially one of the things about Guild Siege is that it is a team effort, and every guild works differently. Every guild has different siege rules. But in the Here Gang Guild, we try to make sure that everybody gets a chance to not only test their defenses, but also test their offenses. And so we try to work with, make sure when you're doing Guild Siege that you're checking chat just to see if there's anything going on. There might be instructions or strategy in Guild chat on what we want to do in Siege. If it's a close siege, then strategy can become very important. Just another tip for you, this battle tab here shows what's going on in Guild Siege, and actually if you chat in here, the other team can see it. So I've actually seen where in Guild Siege other guilds were talking in here, and I don't think they realized that we could see what they were saying. So they were talking about their strategy, and we could try to counteract that. So when you want to be talking strategy, you want to be in guild chat. And you know, every guild is going to be a mix of players at different stages in the game. We've got a few players that have been playing for years, and they have some pretty strong offenses, so they can just roll over all the defenses quite easily. But one of the things you need to keep in mind as you're playing is that your guild mates may have never done Siege before, or they're using an account that is just starting, and they will need some easier defenses to attack. So if you're one of those more experienced players, just hang back a little bit and don't use all your attacks right away. Let some other people get in and start learning how to do Siege. If you just have 3 or 4 players who can solo most defenses with 1 or 2 monsters, they can take over the map, and then your earlier players are not even learning how to do Siege. So keep that in mind as you're picking where to attack and how often. So really the last thing we have to do on the account for today is summons. Clearly this is a brand new account, it's 10 days old, and I'm missing a lot of monsters that would be very useful in Guild Siege. So we just need to see what we can get. So we're going to just chat with our guild a little bit here. It's kind of a tradition in our guild that you do a little happy dance when it's time for you to summon. So, skill ups are good too. Ooh, we got the Water Onimusha, who obviously Khaki is very popular, but he is quite good, especially in Labyrinth. So I'm really excited I got him. He will be on the short list to be built for Labyrinth. And he can be used in Guild Siege, maybe not ideal, and he certainly isn't meta, but he can be helpful in certain cases. So that's a good pull. Then we do our next 10 pull. See what we can get. Fodder is always good, but you know, welcome to Summoner's War Summoning. We do need Griffin skill ups. 4-star fodder is nice, but it's looking like not a very good 10 pull here. Oh, we got lightning, so let's see what we get. Not the best unit. It's okay, but it's not anything. Water Sylphid is not something you're going to build right away early game. So those weren't so hot. We got one more Mystic. Battle Mammoth. So now we're just going to do our 1 light and dark, which are usually a disappointment, but we will see what's going on. Duplicate Tion that the game gives you at the beginning of the game. So that is That is a fail. That's not lovely. Let's see what our legendary gives us. I was hoping for Kamoon. Water Anubis does have its uses, but it's certainly not anything for early game siege even. So that goes into storage. Let's see what our Transcendence gives us. Something useful for early game would be wonderful. We got Water Paladin. So she is useful in RTA and Guild Siege. That's about her only uses. So not the best pull. But, you know, we'll take it. It's another new Nat 5. It wasn't a dupe. You can kind of see now we're at the end of episode 1. This is my monster box right now for anything that's important. I did get really lucky and I pulled Savannah very early on, along with Varad. And I even got the Water Monkey King. So those were 3 really good pulls that are all useful early game. So I can't complain. Well, so that wraps up episode 1 of this series. Please like and subscribe so that we can build my viewership. And if you like seeing this content, I'd love to do more episodes. Feel free to comment. I love to read comments and respond to them whenever I can. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.